On today's episode, my guest is Armie Hammer. The Lone Ranger, Call Me By Your Name, a lot of other movies. One way or the other, you know who he is. He stars in the new Uwe Boll movie, Citizen Vigilante. It was originally going to be called The Dark Knight, but the title was ultimately changed for reasons that I probably shouldn't have to explain to you. It's an action thriller that's really politically charged to the point where it's been banned in Germany, presumably for its anti-immigration and anti-Islam themes. Yeah, problematic doesn't really even begin to cover this one. If you're familiar with Uwe Boll, you probably know what to expect from this movie, and that's all I have to say about that. But we also talk about plenty of other things, like being cast in George Miller's Justice League Mortal. Imagine going through that whole audition process, being cast as one of the leads in an absolutely massive movie, getting fitted for a costume and everything. A Batman costume. And then it just never happens. We talk about some other things too, like being cut out of the movie Hall Pass and an early career audition horror story. It's a fun chat. We keep it light, but there's some heavy stuff in there too. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, give me a like, a subscribe, and or leave a comment. Without further ado, this is Armie Hammer. Hello there, Armie Hammer.
Hello, Zach. How we living?
We're living.
There we go.
Now, I want to begin by asking, because this movie reminds me of this kind of movie. When you were a boy, did you ever stay up late and you had cable TV and a movie comes on in the middle of the night and you're like, ooh, I don't know if I should be watching this. And you turn the volume way down and you're constantly looking over your shoulder to make sure no one's watching.
Absolutely.
What
That
was
was
that
like,
movie for you?
oof. I mean, I remember, I have a specific memory of that movie Jade with David Caruso.
Love
Com-
that movie.
yeah, coming on really late and it's starting and turning the volume down. And then instead of being like, I'm not sure I should be watching this, being like, I should definitely not be watching this. And also, I am in.
I don't know if everyone will admit this, but I think every actor wants to star in kind of like a low budget, dirt under your nails action movie where you get to be the cool guy who just shoots everybody.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I recommend it.
You look great in the movie. Long jacket, turtleneck. Is that like baked into the character, or did you get to kind of play with that?
No, we had a really good wardrobe woman on this one. And she just had like a ton of great clothes. And we walked in and we kind of wanted to find that sweet spot of like, this guy kind of looks like a spy, but also a respectable businessman and trying to find where that sweet spot was. And yeah, that's what we were going for. So I'm glad you liked it.
Sure. Now you get to play like this calm, controlled, stoic, but also insane psychopath.
Lots of
Yeah,
fun.
was there a version of this that was like louder and more unhinged, or was this version of the character baked into the script from the start?
You know, I like to read the script of a film I'm working on multiple times, just to really kind of like soak it in, and absorb. And it just became clearer and clearer to me that this was kind of who this guy was, almost like a bit spectrumy, where it's like he just sees things in such clear black and white. There is logic and there is justice. And if there is not logic or justice, then something needs to be done about it. And it was just my way of kind of figuring out the path into this character who can make these crazy decisions, but in a way that makes sense strictly logically. So, yeah,
Sure. Now this is written, directed by Uwe Ball. I've never spoken to him. I would love to at some point.
he's a trip.
I'm terrified of the prospect of speaking to him. He seems very loud.
The thing about Uwe is Uwe, I'm trying to think how to put this.
Me too.
Yeah. Uwe has a lot of opinions, but even more than that, he has a lot of convictions. And he is very adamant about his convictions. There's a lot of Sanders in Uwe, where it's like he has these very clearly defined convictions and a very sensitive barometer towards what is right or wrong. So who knows? I mean, there may be a part of Uwe that wrote this thinking, I wish I could do this. I don't know.
That's kind of the sense I got as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but it definitely makes his movies unique. Well, so kind of to that, as an actor, when you're in any kind of politically charged thing, whether whatever side it is, we don't have to talk about politics here, but when you're an actor, to what extent do you go, I want to interject here and kind of shape my character in a way that pleases my ego or my opinions versus I'm here to serve.
Yeah, the thing that I feel about film is it is very much a director's medium. Um, the directors are in complete control. It is their vision, it is their project. Obviously, writers have input, obviously, actors have input, but at the end of the day, the way I see it is a director is going to have a point of view and a tone that he wants for a film. And he is going to do everything in his power to make sure that his tone is accomplished. So if I show up as an actor thinking, no, I'm going to do this my way, like I have an idea for my character and I'm going to do it my way, then there's a chance that everything else will be in the style and tone of what the director wants it to be. And if my performance isn't, then it's going to be incongruous with the rest of the film. It's just not going to fit in. So, I could turn in the best performance of my entire life, but if it's not right for the film, it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like it fits. So I don't really have an ego about it. I have a lot of opinions about my characters and what I want to do with them and how I want them to move and talk and act and think and all that stuff. But I talk about the directors that I work with about all of it. And if there's anything where they go, no, see, I kind of saw it more like this, they have a really specific reason why they said that. So I see myself as an actor as there to sort of like facilitate the director's vision.
That makes sense to me. Don't you just hate it when you're at a brothel and you see mold?
It's my least favorite thing in the world.
It's the worst, right?
Yeah.
That was a show-stopping moment in the film,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you get to shoot a guy
I
and
remember
his
I
head
said
blows up.
when we shot that, I said to Uwe, I go, why is the scene so long? And he's like, I was waiting for you to stop. I was like, actors don't stop scenes. Directors stop scenes. And he was like, well, you kept going, so I kept recording. And I was like, oh God. My mother saw it last night.
Oh boy, what did she have to say?
She didn't bring it up.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's probably for the best.
Yeah. Maybe it's denial.
Sure. I want to ask you some questions about, forgive me, but I'm a film fan. I'm one of those people who won't shut the hell up about how much I love the Lone Ranger.
Dude.
Now, like almost as compelling as the Lone Ranger itself is just the legend of the production and pre-production of that movie. So, like when you signed on, was the movie that you signed on to the movie that we saw, and like, or how into the production was it being rewritten?
Um, I I mean, this is years ago now, but I don't remember any big changes from when I signed on to when we were done. Gore is a phenomenal director. And you go back and look at his sort of like oeuvre of movies, they all have a very specific tone, whether it be, Mouse Hunt or Lone Ranger or Have Fun, Don't Die, like all that stuff is like very specific tone. So from day one, from my first conversation with Gore, he was very clear about what he wanted for the film. And I feel like what ended up on screen is exactly what he was going for, as a testament to him. And dude, people ask me all the time, what's your favorite movie that you've ever been in? And I say, in terms of finished result, it's probably Call Me by Your Name or Social Network. But in terms of the shooting experience, Lone Ranger, hands down.
Well, you just said that that film is a director's medium, but your co-star in that movie was Johnny Depp, who may I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think that he approaches it as an actor's medium, as a
Yeah.
performer's medium. So
What's
what
because
was your
the thing about Johnny is he's one of the best performers I've ever worked with. Like he knew everything, everything. He knows everything about making movies to the point where there was a moment where we were shooting. It was a brothel scene with
what's with
Helena
the
Bonham
brothels in your
Carter.
movies?
It was, yeah, I'm seeing a theme here. It was a brothel scene with Helena Bonham Carter, and I remember the DP swung a lens on a camera. He changed a lens on a camera, and as they were setting it up, they get the lens in. The DP puts his eye to the lens, and Johnny says, "What lens do you have on there?" And he was like, "It's a 35 or something. I don't remember what lens it was." And he goes, "Oh, so I need to hold it right here." And he brought it up to the perfect place in the frame. And the director was like, "Yep, exactly." I remembered that moment being like, this guy is very smart about the actual process of making movies. And also, he and Gore have such a long history of working together, through the pirate movies and all that stuff, that there's a real symbiosis between the two of them. Like, Gore could come up and say one word to Johnny, and Johnny would know exactly what he wanted for the rest of the scene.
So kind of to that, and I promise I'll move on from Lone Ranger.
I don't mind.
But for that, kind of stepping into that collaboration, did you feel like you were like, was there an acclimation process where you had to be the third wheel for a little while until you could, jump rope with them?
I was definitely the new kid, both in my own career. I mean, it was pretty early in my career, and then also on that set because everybody who worked on that set did all of the pirate movies, and so they all did Rango and they did Lone Ranger together. So there was like a long history of these guys. So I was kind of like the new kid on the block, but everybody was welcoming and everybody had a blast making that movie.
I mean, I tell people, it's not Pirates of the Caribbean in the Old West. I mean, it is that to an extent, but there's nothing else like it, and they always come away going, "Wow, you were right. There's nothing else like it. Never saw a
Yeah,
movie like that before."
it's got a original and unique tone for sure.
Now, I want to ask about Justice League Mortal,
Mhm.
but before I do, it's a miracle when any movie makes it across the finish line. So when something doesn't, are you just like, all right, on to the next one, or do you kind of take it personally for a little while?
That was the first time that happened to me, so I was completely unprepared and I was convinced that my career was over, my life was over. I like panicked and I was like, I'm never gonna work again. So yeah, that one was tough. I've gotten calluses for dealing with that. And like it's happened multiple times, especially in the last 2 years, where it's like I'm now kind of doing these smaller indie films and I'm now convinced that a film is not real until the director says action for the first time.
Tell me about the indie aesthetic.
There is something really pure about making indie films, and I've always loved it. I've been really lucky that I got to make some big movies and I got to make some really beautiful small movies. Um, it's very bare bones on indie projects. I mean, on Lone Ranger, at one point we had 200 Teamsters on the movie. Like that's just 200 guys who drive cars and don't do anything but drive cars around. We didn't have 40 crew members probably for Citizen Vigilante. So it feels really streamlined. It feels really efficient. There's no wastage. You have to make your days, you have to move quickly. There's a pressure that comes with it, but then there's also like a freedom that comes with it because you don't have five studio execs sitting next to the director going, "Do you think we should do a little bit like this?" And then the director has to argue with them about why he has to do what he wants to. There is a austerity to it that is really fun to work with.
It's nice to be left alone to make
Yeah,
a movie.
yeah,
Um, kind of from that. Forgive me for dropping a name, but I got to interview Al Pacino a couple of years ago, and he talked about building sets on like the Lower East Side when he was like a Broadway kid or
yeah.
pre-Broadway kid. Did you ever find yourself kind of not necessarily putting on your carpenter's hat, but you know, helping out on the set, not,
Sure.
instead of just waiting in your trailer?
Trailer.
Ah.
Well, I didn't have a cast chair. Like this was bare bones. But no, I mean, when it's a small group of guys doing something, everybody pitches in. I would find myself moving equipment around or helping do this or that or whatever. It's like you just whatever needs to get done, you just do it because you don't have a surplus of money or people or time. So you just kind of get through it all.
A little hard work goes a long way to giving you that ownership, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, back to Justice League Mortal. How far along was it? Like, did you get a costume? Did you get to go, oh wow, I'm gonna be Batman? Or
Yeah,
what?
I wore the bat suit multiple times. And that's the most heartbreaking thing. It was incredible. It was fully functioning. The guys at Weta, who, are the special effects house out of New Zealand, built the whole thing. Everything functioned. Everything. Like I could shoot batarangs out of like these things on my arm, and like, there were these pistons on it and carbon fiber. And I mean, they really built a fully functioning bat suit. Um, and I don't have a single picture of me in the bat suit, which is probably a good thing because I would have posted it at some point like an idiot. But yeah, it was something. And I mean, it had these really tall ears that were really sharp and angular, and these big boots. I mean, I was probably 7 feet tall when I was wearing that thing. Yeah, it
Because
was
it
it was
was it was
it
much
was
more
intimidating.
comic
Like
book, right?
yeah, it was very much based off of comic books. Um, we had a turning neck before anybody else had a turning neck for the batsuit, and it was intimidating. Like even the cowl, the face piece was like carved, and it looked like okay. You're a film guy, you get this. Do you remember when the Scarecrow squirts Batman in the face? Or when, no, I'm sorry, when Batman squirts Scarecrow in the face with his juice and he looks at Batman and it looked like a nightmare. That's what our Batsuit looked like all the time.
Wow.
It was intimidating. I would walk into rooms and people would kind of, yeah,
I mean, what could have been, right?
yeah.
But
Could have also been a disaster. You never know.
yeah, who knows? I
Yeah,
mean, best laid plans, right?
yeah.
Um, tell me, auditioning and whittling it down and meeting with George Miller. Like, at what point did you realize, oh, I got it? And, you've already talked about the fallout of losing it, but during that window when you had it, what was
Yeah.
like,
The audition process for that movie was crazy. Uh, the audition scenes, I think there was like 4 or 5 audition scenes that they gave us. They were like, you can pick any of these scenes to use as your audition scene. And it was the Jack Nicholson, you can't handle the truth. It was scenes that won Academy Awards for all the actors who did the scenes. So it was already intimidating and daunting from day one. I ended up picking like a 5-page monologue that was Ned Beatty's speech from Network. Where it was like, do you remember it was like, you have meddled with the primal forces of nature, Mr. Beale, and I can't have it. Like, and
oh yeah,
that long monologue that he gives, I was
finale.
like, I don't think anyone else is going to pick this scene because it's 5 pages, single spaced of like of a long monologue. So that was the scene that I went with and worked my ass off on that and went in and did it. Rona Kress was the casting director for it. I remember going into her office, doing the monologue a couple of times, which probably took 45 minutes total. And then she was like, "Great, thanks." And I was like, "Okay." And I left and I was like, who knows? You got to let those things go the minute you walk out of the room. You can't, you have to detach from outcome entirely. And then I got a call and they're like, "Hey, they want you to come back in and they want you to read with people." And I was like, "Okay, like are these people who have the job?" And they go, "No, there are other people they're considering for the job." So I went in and read with an actress and we did a scene that was like, I don't remember what it was from, but it was like a husband and wife arguing about something. And I was like, I don't know how this fits in, but I think they wanted to just kind of see all the different colors and tones that you could bring into it. Did that a couple of times, and then still had no idea what was going to happen. And then I just got the call. They're like, "Congratulations, you're going to play Batman." And I just remember freaking out. I took all my friends to a big celebration dinner. We just had a great time. Yeah.
I did not remotely the same, but I remember getting a job at a magazine in 2020 and
Hmm.
being so happy. And I had my first article in an issue, and that issue turned out to be their last issue because they got sold and
So you,
everyone got laid off.
yeah, so you
So
get it.
yeah, not that it's on a much smaller scale, but it was like
It's relative.
yeah. So so that's an audition that went well, didn't necessarily pan out in the end. But do you have a an audition horror story that keeps you up at night, or do you have you found a way as an actor, as a business person, to let it all wash off your back or whatever the term is?
I went in to read for a TV show early on in my career, years before the Justice League thing. And I was so nervous because I was still so new to it that I sat down in the chair and there was like five people right in front of me. And I remember I locked eyes with one of the guys who was in the room and I started my scene right to his face, thinking that this is who I was going to read the scene with. And I finished my first long line, and someone else started talking. And I found out
Oh,
that they were the casting director. And I remember in that moment panicking because I was like, what do I do? Do I keep looking at this guy where I started, or do I look at the casting director? And I was so nervous, I couldn't figure out what to do. And I ended up doing the entire scene to maybe one of the producers, like right to his face, while someone else on the side was talking. And I could feel in the moment my brain going, look at the lady talking. Like, what are you doing? And I just couldn't do it. I was just frozen. And I remember walking out of there so angry at myself.
did you get it?
Nope. Shocker. Shocker. Yeah.
What was the first job you did get? Was it a movie, a TV?
First job I ever did was I had a very tiny part in a indie film called it was either like Laura Smiles or Laura's Smile. I don't remember exactly what it was called. And I played a waiter in the scene. And Kip Purdue was in it. He was the guy in the booth talking to a girl, and I just walk up and take their order. And I remember like really just giving it my all and trying to do a good job. And then the we finished the scene, and the director was like, "Hey, do you want to see it?" I was like, "Sure." And I went up to the monitor and I watched, and it was framed from here down. So you
Ah,
couldn't even see my face. And I remember it finished and you never see my face in the shot. And he was like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "It's great. It's great." And I walked away and that was it. Yeah. But it got me my SAG card.
hey.
Yeah.
Um, so that's got to be. Oh well, you tell me. Is that better or worse than maybe this has happened to you? Maybe it hasn't. Being cast, shooting a scene, then the scene gets cut.
That's happened to me too, multiple times. It's all bad. It all sucks.
If your scene gets cut, do you still get like the SAG points or whatever it is?
I mean, you still get paid for the movie because you get paid before you shoot. So I don't think I got any residuals from that. Not that residuals exist anymore anyway.
Can you say what it was?
Uh, Hall Pass,
Oh,
the
okay.
Owen Wilson and Jason Sudeikis film. Yeah,
Um, but then you finally did get to have your moment. You starred in all these movies. We've been over most of them. Tell me about getting a period of your life where you get to be larger than life. Like, was it the dream, or do you like being a regular guy, as regular as Armie Hammer can be?
yeah, it's that's relative too. There's that age-old story of selling your soul for success. Robert Johnson at the Crossroads, all that stuff, right? Um, it doesn't actually involve the devil. It just involves what you're willing to trade. And a public life is not a cakewalk. There's really nothing that prepares you for it. Um, The pressures of it are unique. Uh, the attention, both good and bad, are not anything that human beings are inherently built to deal with. In like the 350,000 years of Homo sapien history, for 99.99999% of it, the biggest stresses that we would have are like, a frost came early and killed our crops in our little 100-person community, right? Um, there's a much more global nature to it now with the internet and social media and media in general. It's hard. I mean, I'm not complaining because I've experienced the benefits of it and I've also experienced the pitfalls of it. Um, there was a period for a couple of years where I really just felt like a normal guy, especially when I wasn't working. I did my thing. No one really cared. No one really paid attention. And there is a sort of freedom in that kind of anonymity. And in a weird way, that anonymity feels like it's kind of coming to an end for me a little bit. Like it just feels like there's much more heat and attention now. And it's stressful. But you know what? At the same time, I'm so happy to be doing what I'm doing that, you know, I have no regrets.
Did you ever forgive this is like light, but did you ever like put on like a prosthetic chin or whatever to go out and not get noticed? Anything like that? I've heard stories of celebrities doing that.
No, I've heard about that. I've heard about that. I've done like the hat and sunglasses thing, but it doesn't work because if you're a dude wearing a hat and sunglasses inside, everyone's like, "Who's the dude in the hat and sunglasses?" And then they pay more attention.
The dude who's like 6'4" or what or however tall you are.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a couple of scenes in this movie where you're particularly intimidating
yeah.
due to your height, imposing height. Um, oh, bring things back to this movie, but also Justice League Mortal. When you signed on, did you have a talk with Uwe where you were like, "Dude, this movie is not going to be called The Dark Knight"?
I did. I remember I said to him before we started shooting, I go, "So you're calling it the Dark Knight?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay. You know that there's a movie called The Dark Knight, and it's a pretty big movie. Everybody knows what it is." And he got this kind of smile on his face. And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Are you allowed to do that?" And he looks at me and he goes, "Can't copyright the title of a film," which is true. Uh, but that doesn't stop Warner Brothers from being like, "We will destroy you if you call this movie The Dark Knight." So now it is Citizen Vigilante.
Which honestly is a better title, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
If they should go back in time, rename The Dark Knight Citizen Vigilante.
Then maybe we could have Dark Knight back.
There you go. Tell me about getting to flex your macho muscles. Um, just the getting to be like real mean. You're real mean in this movie. There's like a like you said, part of it's like pathological or like he's just wired a little differently. But you
Yeah,
get the finale. I don't even want to spoil the finale because it's so vicious and mean spirited in a way that like
yeah,
that is very Uwe,
yeah.
and in a non-judgmental way, it is very Uwe.
I don't think anybody would take a swing like this except for that guy, which is great. There's a saying that I love that says, "Be conservative in your life so you can be crazy in your art." And there are things in this movie that I think all of us have wanted to do, even on some smaller level. Uh, but we don't. We can't. Because if everybody did this, society would be a mess. But to get to do it in a kind of controlled environment, it's a lot of fun.
And you've got those kind of deliciously hammy monologue. Not hammy. That's a bad word. You know what I mean.
I know
But
what you mean.
the big monologues to the it's just like you to your webcam.
Yeah.
Are those like a feast for you as an actor, or are they tremendously difficult to nail it?
I was a little concerned about those because if done wrong, it just feels like bad exposition. Um, and I wanted to avoid that. And I also didn't want to make it bigger than it needed to be. So trying to find the right tone for those was definitely a process. Yeah.
Uh, you still doing the podcast?
No, shut it down.
You finished it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good
Okay.
run.
Is it something that you'd like to return to, or is it kind of more press than it's worth?
It's a lot of work running a podcast, man. And like we were just doing it ourselves. We didn't have any team on it. It was just me and my producer, Jerry, and getting guests, scheduling, organizing. We have an opening this week. Can you come in? And then they say yes. And it's 3 weeks from now. And then a week before they cancel. And you're like scrambling to find someone. It's a lot of stress running a podcast, especially if you're doing all of it yourself. Um, and also, I did it because it was really the only creative expression left to me. Um, I wasn't working in film or television or theater or anything like that. And I thought that it would be an opportunity for me to have a sort of like creative expression. And I did it for a year before I kind of realized this isn't scratching the itch like I want it to. So I just walked away from it.